Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Hello, guys. Preemptive like, great channel, Sabaton History, the Carolean's Prayer, Soldiers of the Swedish Kings, Sabaton History, episode 9. Joachim Swedish too. And then you got Indy, who can speak Swedish. Pretty cool. Hope you guys are all doing well. I don't want it to just seem like it's a intro, outro type of thing. Mental health is no joke. I really hope you guys are doing well. If not, maybe I can make your day a little better. Just sit back, relax, and let's learn. If you are not ready to learn, though, there's the door. You're in the wrong class. Let's go. And as always, there is a song that goes along with each Sabaton History video, and I will watch it at the end of this video. Let's go.
I'm Indy Nidell.
Hey.
And I'm Joachim from Sabaton, and this is Sabaton History.
Did I say original link to the video, top of the description, right below that, link to the Discord, sends you right over there.
The soldiers of the Swedish kings, the Caroleans, were the elite soldiers of Europe in their day, winning great battles, even outnumbered with their innovative and superior tactics.
But their discipline, morale, and religious convictions were equally important. And that's what our song Carolean's Prayer is about.
Now, Joachim is going to tell you a little bit about the song in a minute, but first, I'm going to tell you the history.
Ooh,
in the 17th century,
is
most European armies consisted of three types of soldiers. The levies, who were usually conscripted or otherwise locally raised men. The mercenaries, who were often experienced but expensive soldiers for hire. And guards units, who were the elite household units of the state, high in talent, small in numbers. The Swedish Carolean soldiers were something in between. After the rather disappointing performance of the Swedish military in the Scanian War, which ended in 1679, in which they fought against Danish, Norwegian, and German armies, who they had thought to be their inferior, King Carl XI began reorganizing and modernizing the Swedish army in the 1680s. He developed a new allotment system where each Swedish province had to raise and equip a standing force of around 1,000 men in both war and peace times. Those men were professional soldiers who, in return for being given their uniforms, weapons, and plots of land to support their families, had a lifelong commitment to king and country until they were released from service. Or they died.
I was about to say,
came first.
I thought he said until
Sweden,
they die.
Or the Swedish Empire, or just the Kingdom of Sweden, had never been able to maintain a standing army for long because of a lack of manpower and resources. Even at the height of its power, Sweden could not compete with other more populous European powers in terms of numbers and replenishment. So instead of quantity, they had to rely on quality. The Caroleans, as they were now called after their king, enjoyed the best training and quality of equipment the empire could provide. This emphasized modern flintlock muskets and strict drills in marching and firing, performed with live ammunition. Special emphasis was put on close combat training with rapiers, bayonets, and pikes. Now, bayonets were actually a rather new thing, so most of the musketeers were trained in fencing with rapiers.
That surprises me, because I feel that that's such an obvious hindsight 2020 in history, understand, but I feel like putting a spearhead on your musket so that you don't have to carry both a spear and a gun would just be like common sense.
Since the Caroleans were now professional soldiers, they began to develop a certain feeling of uniqueness within Swedish society. The community was paying for their living, and in return, they were expected to fight and to die for the crown. But it went beyond that. Officers and veterans defined themselves as krigare, meaning warrior, and associated the word with a sense of pride and duty and merit. It wasn't just about the oath to the king.
That is a crazy good painting.
Or the regiment, nor the time they spent training, nor even their competence in leadership. The true test of the warrior was his baptism of fire during a real battle. Scars from wounds were shown proudly, since they symbolized the blood shed for their king. And at the end of a Carolean's life, the scars they bore were the only proof of the hardships they had endured on the battlefield. And of course, their comrades who were also present at the battles experienced the same pain, fear, glory, anger, and joy. And society would never really understand it in the same way.
I have to pause for something. One thing that angered me a lot was if you ever learn about like the not the shell shock. It's horrible to be shell shocked, but the wounds after like World War I, where like people's faces were blown off and stuff like that, and they had to go through like reconstruction surgery, and people would point at them at the streets, and it's like that's the person who gave their face like in battle, and so like they should be able to wear their blown like without a mask proudly and not have people be afraid or whatever.
Discipline unites them. A common faith to keep them strong. Always on their way to heaven. In the name of Christ, and enemies chastise.
Now, this feeling was true more or less for every soldier everywhere, but the Caroleans dealt with it in a different way. They had a certain camaraderie that was absent in the larger European armies, which was great for morale. But besides the strong camaraderie, they held strongly and even fatalistically to the Christian faith. Chaplains were common in European armies, but for the Caroleans, they were omnipresent. In the way battles were fought at the time, with lines of tightly packed soldiers marching towards and then shooting at each other, it was difficult to explain why one soldier died and the man next to him lived. The strong faith of the Caroleans convinced them that every death on the battlefield was simply according to God's will. Death did not come to them because they failed or made a poor decision or simply because of bad luck, but because death was already predetermined before the battle. God had already decided it, so worrying about whether you would survive a battle was pointless.
It's like Lieutenant Spears. Spears in Band of Brothers is like the only way to cope with it is just to realize you're already dead. Band of Brothers, great movie, TV series. I have a feeling this is going to be one of my top 3 songs.
Did not make the Caroleans completely fearless or some sort of religious warrior fanatics, but it was a way of dealing with the stress of battle. And this strong Christian belief, in combination with the strict discipline of the drills, made the Caroleans highly motivated soldiers. If you take a look at how the Caroleans actually fought, you understand why a certain fatalism was necessary. As I said before, the Swedish forces had to rely on quality over quantity. This had to really translate on the battlefield itself. Long engagements with high casualties were unacceptable, and Sweden could not fight wars of attrition. Instead, they had to defeat their enemies quickly and decisively. Regular battle combat was fought in line formations where soldiers closed ranks to maximize the amount of firepower they could unleash on the enemy, so both sides would, as I said, march their infantry towards the other and then stop and open fire at a distance of around 100 meters. They would then reload and continue to fire. Artillery and cavalry were used to disrupt and break these infantry formations and exploit breakthroughs. But that could lead to long and costly engagements, the sort the Swedes were trying to avoid. So they had to beat this whole system. The Carolean musketeers would set up 4 ranks deep as they marched toward the enemy. But instead of halting to fire at the usual 100-meter mark, they continued marching. The enemy, of course, would not and opened fire upon them, but the Caroleans marched on. Muskets were notoriously inaccurate, but many men still fell from enemy fire. Despite the shock and despite the casualties, they marched on until they were around 50 meters away from the enemy. The saying, "Do not fire until you see the whites of their eyes," did not come from this practice, but it might as well have. The volley of gunfire from the first 2 ranks at such close range was far more accurate and far more effective than the enemy's, both physically and psychologically. But after the first 2 ranks had fired, they still did not stop or reload, but kept on marching.
Bayonet. I'm freezing,
Instead
guys.
of
I just gotta
reloading,
bring my
those
heater.
first two ranks drew their rapiers and changed positions with the third and fourth ranks. Instead of reloading, those first two ranks drew their rapiers and changed positions with the third and fourth ranks. Then they closed in on the enemy to around 20 meters, and now those ranks opened fire as well. At this close range, most bullets would easily find their targets and completely disrupt the enemy's ranks. And the Caroleans kept on coming. They did not stop to reload, but charged with cold steel, bayonets and sabers raised, into the enemy. Modern military historians support the thesis that although all armies had begun slowly equipping their soldiers with some sort of bayonet or bayonet-like weapon, actual charges were thought of as a thing of the past by most military thinkers at the time. Thus, the Caroleans, specially trained in close combat, crashed into disrupted, unstable, and frightened formations. The tactic was simply called gå på, which translates to walk on
I thought it
or
was
march
gapa.
on. All it was swiftly marching through the enemy's fire to close with him. It was a very dangerous tactic and relied decisively and exclusively on personal bravery and aggressiveness. But done correctly, it could absolutely terrify the enemy and lead to a swift victory with minimal casualties. When you think about it, it arguably made the Caroleans the first modern shock troops. Breakthroughs would then be exploited by Carolean cavalry, who, in the same spirit as the infantry, rode very close, often knee to knee, to maximize their effect on smashing the enemy's formations.
Let me know if I'm wrong here, but I think they were also one to kind of pioneer. You know the volley fire, like you need like 3 or 4 rows of men in order to keep a continuous, firing down the line. Despite having single shot, long time to reload rifles. So the first would shoot, they'd reload, the second line stand up, shoot, they reload, third stand up, shoot, repeat. But I believe in one of the videos, instead of kind of in a retreating movement of like the first line shoots and then they go behind, it would kind of be like the first line shoots, and then the back line goes ahead, shoots, reloads, the back line goes ahead, and then so it was much more of a offensive maneuver rather than a defensive one. Let me know if I'm wrong there, but if I am right, that kind of gives you an insight into the Swedish fighting mindset.
In many ways, the Caroleans were unique, and actually pulling off said gå på tactic was only possible through the strict discipline, the high morale, and the unique motivation of the Swedish soldiers at the time. The Great Northern War of 1700 to 1721 showcased the effectiveness of such tactics in battle after battle against numerically superior foes. But we'll talk more about this in the other episodes about the other songs from Sabaton's Carolus Rex album, a concept album about this period in Swedish history. Suffice it to say for now, that as long as the Swedish army could avoid mistakes on an operational level, it was extremely tough to beat on a tactical level, and doing so would, in any case, require a huge loss of life from those foolish enough to try.
Look at that.
Now, the actual writing process for this song was a bit different from how you write most of the other songs.
Is Joachim a Swedish name?
Normally we do the music first and the lyrics comes later, since there's a lot of research to do for us usually.
Fair enough.
In this case, however, already as I was writing the song, the words "Tills han vitögat ser, Carolinen marscherar fram," which is basically almost what we sing in the lyrics. And it's, see the white in their eyes, Caroleans are marching on.
But I like that you said it in Swedish, because this song you can get in Swedish and in English.
And it's, see the white in their eyes, Caroleans are marching on. In the lyrics. And it's marscherar fram. With the song, the words "Tills han vitögat ser, Carolinen marscherar fram." With the song, the words "Tills han vitögat ser, Carolinen marscherar fram," which is basically almost what "Tills han vitögat ser, Carolinen marscherar fram," which is basically almost what we sing in the lyrics. And it's, see the white in their eyes, Caroleans are marching on.
But I like that you said it in Swedish, because this song you can get in Swedish and in English.
Yes.
You have it in both. Now, why did you do that?
Well, we've had requests over the years that we should maybe do something in Swedish at some point, and we thought, yeah, but it didn't make sense for us to sing in Swedish if it wasn't about Swedish
About
history.
World War II.
Yeah. You know, Swedish people are decent at English at least, and no matter how good we think we are, it's still a second language. Writing the lyrics for this album was so much easier in Swedish, and also singing. You know, when you're singing, it's not only about hitting the notes, but also getting the vibe and the feel in there.
A lot of people miss that.
Yeah, and it's bizarre that I needed less than half of the retakes that I normally do when I was singing in Swedish.
His English is perfect.
But now this song, it has the choir, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's one of my favorite moments, actually, of recording ever. I don't know, for those of you who record music, sometimes things just turn out as good or better than you could even dare to hope. And this was one of those moments. And I'm standing there listening to the choirs being made as I'm singing Tills han vitögat ser Carolinen marschera fram. Being made as I'm singing Tills han vitögat ser Carolinen marschera fram.
Carolien marscherar fram.
La sitt liv i Guds hand för sin konung och fosterland. Put their lives in God's hand for the kingdom and fatherland. And when I hear those words in Swedish with the choir and I'm singing it at the same time, I had to stop the takes because I was almost shaking, you know, and I got goosebumps already thinking about it. You know?
How many layers of chorus and choir were there?
Well, it's triple harmony. Usually we record male choirs. So it's like 3 to 5 guys who go in and sing the bottom harmony, the middle, and the top harmony. And the top harmony is usually where I'm singing as well, or joining in. And then we do the same for female choirs. So it's quite a lot of takes because we usually dub them as well. So we get them in stereo, so we go left and right.
Oh, that's cool. And let's hear some of that. Well, that was fascinating. Thank you very much, Joachim. Carolean's Prayer is on Carolus Rex.
And that's it for today.
But we will see you next time right here on Sabaton History.
We're not listening. We're listening to the whole thing right now. All right. Carolean's Prayer. Let's do it. Preemptive like. I like to blast it always. It's really loud for me.
Far beyond their nation's borders, there's an army on the march. For religion, king, and glory, in the name of Christ, their enemies chastised. Taking orders from the heavens, through hostile fire they will march, unaffected by the volleys.
I like how I can sing along. In the camp. I'm becoming a fan. See the white.
teach them a common faith to keep them strong. Always on their way to heaven. In the name of Christ, their enemies chastise.
I want to get to the
Into battle, facing the fire, Lord, thy will be done. Into battle,
walking the line further higher. I love the blue and yellow. I didn't hear the lyrics. I'm sorry. Uh-oh. Their enemies fight, prepare for the fight, banners held high, ready to die. Hear how they praise the Lord. I can't play guitar. Into battle, walking the line. You guys Oh, this is the Swedish. Hela God var David namn. How do you say it? Dapper by Jordan. And what does that mean? And to forgive us our trespasses. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses. What does that? What do they mean by that? Ge oss bröd och idag och förlåt oss våra skulder. Awesome song. Tillkommer ditt rike din vilja, så som i himmelen så och uppe i jorden. ge oss både och idag och förlåt oss farens skuld. Fader var som är in himmelen, helgad vare dina namn. Till konung dina kensken jalvirka. I can't. Så som in himmelen sakar jorden. Sorry, guys. Awesome video. I will post this tomorrow. Today is it Monday? Is it Monday or Sunday? It is Monday, the 7th of February. See you guys next time.